Right, we're rolling. What is happening, people? Welcome back to Royals Review Podcast, episode 25. Dan isn't with us today. He's busy, so I'm hosting, and I have got the absolute pleasure of introducing our good friend and fellow Reading fan, Mr. Cena. How you doing?
Safe, man. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. A bit miffed about last night, but I'm sure we'll get into that. How are you?
I'm all good, thanks, mate. Yeah, I think we'll just jump straight into it, really. Yeah, we'll start with Burton. Obviously, third loss on the bounce. One which I think most of us, or at least many of us, thought we'd probably get a win or at least pick up a result. Yeah, what did you sort of take from the game? What did you think?
Yeah, obviously disappointing. Looking at that fixture, kind of licking our lips in terms of their form, their place in the table, how we're playing. I know the two games before that, Stockport, Leighton, have been shocking. Maybe we'll touch on those. But, coming into a fixture like that, you expect the quality of the team to show, and it just didn't. It just looked like I watched the Leighton game. I was at the Stockport game. It looked just a bit more of that, out of ideas, underwhelming, kind of whatever you want to call it. It was pretty dire, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect sort of description of the last three games. Really, sort of poor defensively. The wing backs haven't really been great. Lewis Wing, I mean, I feel like he's having a bit of an off game recently. These last three games, he's not really been at his best. I guess sort of ever since he got marked out at Stockport, he's not really looked like himself, has he? And then, of course, just not really taking our chances yesterday. I think Smith had as many chances as the strikers did for who am I even trying to think of? Who did we even play? Burton.
Yeah.
The strikers for Burton, and we just didn't put them away, did we? We didn't put them away at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's an interesting one on wing because, me, you, Dan speak about it after the game, before the game. Realistically, when wing plays well, we usually play well and we usually win. He unlocks the door a lot of the time, putting the balls in behind to Smith, putting it into the channels, just calming the pace of play, being the lead on the pitch. He's just looked completely, I don't know, a shadow of himself the last few games. And it's kind of, correlates perfectly with just how awful we've been. But we need players like that, especially players like Lewis, to step up in these times. Like it's difficult now. We're getting into a little bit of a difficult period. Got some tough fixtures coming up, and he's played badly last few games. And we need leadership on the pitch because we're not really getting it from anywhere. So yeah, I don't want to put it all on wing, obviously, but he's clearly quality-wise one of our best players, if not the best. So you're going to look to your best players, aren't you, to dig you out of the hole sometimes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a perfect description of it. I think also we're definitely missing the likes of Ben Elliott and Mbenge at the back. I think more so Mbenge. I just feel like his pace sort of adds so much to that defence. I wouldn't say Michael Craig is particularly fast. Bindon, although he's so sort of like smart on the ball, which kind of makes up for his lack of pace, I just think that Mbenge sort of fills in so many of the gaps. Even with Wing, if Wing's marked, he sort of provides that option going forward. So it'll be massive getting him back. I'm not actually sure how long he's out for, but it can't sort of come soon enough. I think, sort of just moving on to the next point then. I mean, it's a big talking point at the moment. What do you make of Noel Hunt's time in charge so far? We've had a bad run of form. We've had a good run of form. It's sort of been sort of fluctuating, really, hasn't it? Since he signed as manager at the beginning of December. Yeah, what are your thoughts on it so far?
Yeah, I mean, the stats aren't great. 3 wins, 2 draws, 7 defeats, lost the last 4 on the bounce. It hasn't been good. Initially took over, got a good point away at Wickham, then 3 disappointing sort of losses on the spin, followed by 3 great wins and a draw. Played well against Burnley. I don't think anyone really expected Reading to win the game, let alone go toe to toe with them for 120 minutes or however long it was in the end, with extra time. But the last 3 games have been so bad. Some of the worst. On that Stockport game I was at, the first half, 2-0 down pretty quickly, and probably one of the worst first half I've seen from Reading since I've been there. It's been bad. So yeah, it was a bit of a, maybe after Burnley, I'd probably say, okay, mixed bag. But last 3 games have been so bad, and I just don't see the desire, the attitude from the players on the pitch that we did under Sellers, because he did the best as what he could with what he had, and Noel's just not that for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's 11 points out of a possible 30. So, if you go by sort of getting 2 points on average per game as like a playoff, if you're hopeful for playoffs, that's what you're sort of aiming for. So we're kind of a win and a draw behind. But I don't know what it is. Obviously, okay, I guess the first point to address is there literally is no other option than Noel Hunt. Yeah. I don't know if people even realise that at the moment. They should by now, but it's him or no one. I mean, if it's not him, it's going to be someone else from the academy who looks after some of the academy players, or I don't know, but they're not going to be anywhere near as experienced as Hunt is. So he is the best option. But yeah, just going back to my point, being sort of 4 points off where I think we'd like to be. It's just so frustrating, isn't it? Like that game yesterday was so crucial in my eyes, and to throw it away in the last minutes just because of how poor our defence have been playing recently. It is just sort of like the nail in the coffin, really, isn't it? Even against Stockport and Leyton Orient, like they were again 2 games that were against the teams that were below us at the time, and it just feels like we've thrown them away. But saying that, we had a fantastic festive period, so it's a weird one. I really hope Noel Hunt sort of finds a plan B, but something definitely needs to change. Obviously, we've got players out injured, and Dorset picked up an injury as well, so it's going to add even more pressure on him and his staff. But yeah, I do think we'll get some more results for sure, and we should be able to stay up this season. I think playoffs definitely out of reach now, given the way that we've been playing. Just going back a step as well, Reading have conceded the second most goals from set pieces, and that's 40% of our goals conceded. That just sort of shows how bad our defence has been recently. And just how important it's going to be to sort of get the likes of Mbenge back. Yeah, that was a stat that Dan pulled out earlier, but it shocked me that it was that much. Like the 40% of our goals conceded are from set pieces. So we've got big changes needed in defence. The other thing that I wanted to mention quickly, which will lead us on to our next point, is do you feel like we've been picking up a lot of silly sort of yellow cards at the moment? And I know you mentioned about sort of there not really being a leader as such on the pitch at the moment. Do you think we're sort of lacking discipline?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, you can definitely mention silly yellow cards. I think at the level and the quality of play in League One, there's always, you go on X like every day and you see some idiots picked up something stupid or the rest on something ridiculous in this league. But there is definitely a lack of discipline. Yes, we've got a very young team, which is great. We do have some very exciting players. But the players that you do look to, the players like Wing, players like Harley Dean, who should know so much better from a leadership point of view. He's been around the block. Even players like Smith and Nibbs, they've built a good partnership. They've been in League One a while, playing with each other. Players like Harley Dean running that back line when he's got Garcia and Bindon next to him, who probably are younger than him combined their age as well. Like that's the sort of discipline that you'll look to for your senior players, and kind of what you need to look to for Noel as well and his coaching staff. Like I said, I know that Noel's got a really difficult task. He's been brought in, and it's kind of an impossible job at the moment, isn't it? With the restraints that Reading have, anyone who takes that job, we've got to give them a bit of grace. But it's just the attitude. Like, we don't expect them to win every game, but it's just the application from the players has just been so bad the last few games. They've been unrecognisable from the team that we had under Sellers. We just need a bit more desire. Yes, a bit more discipline. Some of the older players put their arm around. Some of the younger players pull them out of trouble when they're talking back to the ref or talking to another player. It's just stupid stuff like that getting in trouble for. You're right. And then you lose concentration and they get a tap in at the back post in the 93rd minute last night, and you're just like, it's such bad lapse of concentration, isn't it? So yeah, I think discipline definitely in our downfall.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And I think just overall, really, management as well, it's just a very inexperienced squad. So we're going to have to sort of lean and rely on these more experienced players in literally every situation. Now, I might get pelters for this, and I've been discussing it with Dan. Do you think Lewis Wing should be captain? Now, I'll tell you why we were speaking about this. So he had an interview, or he put out something on the Reading website, or I saw it on social media anyway, saying that he's not really one to sort of speak up on the pitch or communicate too much on the pitch. He's just a player that you sort of like leads by example. And I mean, he's spot on. Like, you never see him really sort of shouting around, but you just see him putting in like 8 out of 10 performances pretty much every week. I know we said he's sort of been off it recently, but there's no denying he's our most consistent player. And then you see players like Sam Smith, who are just constantly sort of encouraging the team, shouting at players when they're not doing their job. Do you think someone like Smith might be more beneficial being the captain and like leading the squad as well? Or do you think Wing is the perfect sort of player for it? The only other thing I want to add to it as well is I feel like Smith has that view of like everything that's going on. Like, he plays with his back to goal most of the time. He's watching like the rest of the team play and the opposition play for most of the match, isn't he? So he's got a good idea on everything that's going on. Whereas I guess Wing is sort of, just running around constantly, picking the ball up and just dictating the play. Like, there's no denying that he's not a massive player for us, a hugely important player for us. But there's part of me that definitely thinks, is it worth having someone that's perhaps a stronger sort of leader on pitch, someone that's more vocal than Lewis Wing? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is a good point. I think, like, one, certainly a severe lack of options on like who could it be. Yeah, you point out Smith. It definitely could be. You look at a player like Lewis Wing, probably one of the most talented, if not the most. He's got more talent in his left foot than his right foot than most people have. Most players have on that pitch. He's so talented. I feel we're super lucky to have him. He's a huge advocate for the team. But yeah, at the moment, just not quite cutting it in the leadership department. And if he's come out and said things like that, it is a little bit worrying, isn't it? You're looking at his players like Garcia, even Savage, who's probably looking to do something similar to Lewis Wing in his career, following footsteps. He's quite a young player in that position. You're looking at players like Craig. Those sort of players are looking up to players like Lewis Wing. And if he's coming out and saying that, it's not great for the team. I get it might not be his bag, speaking up on the pitch as part of his personality. I don't want to compare it to Premier League, but like, if you look at Heung-min Song, there's a captain of Tottenham last year. He doesn't really speak up too much on the pitch. You look at players like Ryan Yates, Nottingham Forest, huge leadership on the pitch. It makes such a difference in galvanising those teams. Look at how well Forest is doing at the moment compared to look how badly Tottenham are doing at the moment. I'm not saying it's all down to the captain, but when the going gets tough, you look to those players, those leadership characters, to help pull you out of it and to like settle the game down, get it under control, or everything you might want to say. If you're going to take the captaincy away from wing, yeah, apart from Smith, you're really short of options, and taking captaincy away from wing now to someone else, it could just cause more unrest. So yeah, I don't love it as a captain, not at the moment anyway. But he does, for me, he does have the ability to be a great captain for Reading if he starts speaking up and starts putting on.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, like you said, it's just because he doesn't speak up on pitch doesn't mean he's not a fantastic leader. And as he said, you sort of lead by example, and you can't doubt that with him. He's as important as whether he would be captain, whether he's captain or he isn't captain, in my eyes. And also, we don't get to see what happens in the changing rooms. He might be a completely different person there. So, I guess what we're trying to highlight anyway is the fact that there just seems to be like a lack of sort of ownership or like leadership on the pitch at the moment, which is leading to like stupid mistakes. Not really looking like we've got much of a plan. Just hoofball. I know that obviously comes down to tactics as well, but surely it gets to a point where it's like this obviously isn't working. We know how we can play, like when we were playing under Sellers. Why don't we just sort of play like that? Food for thought. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that disagree with me on that one. But there might be a few that think that's a good point as well. Moving on to the next point. Conveniently, the two players that have been linked with transfers away this week have just scored against Burton. Michael Craig linked with Stevenage, and Sam Smith linked with Wrexham. Obviously, I'm not sure how legit or reliable any of these links are, but I think we've done pretty well to not lose anyone up until now. I know that this is going to jinx it completely now that I've said this. But don't you think we've done all right? We haven't lost Bindon, which is huge. I mean, part of me wouldn't actually be too... If somebody was to go and it was Michael Craig, I feel like that's a position that I could deal with sort of losing. I feel like we could definitely replace him with who we've got so far. If someone had to leave, who, in your eyes, would it be? Or who would you be less sort of bothered about if they left, or if we sold this window? And who is the most important, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the thought of losing Sam Smith is awful. Like, we cannot afford to lose a player of that quality. He's such an incredible striker. You see Dan saying he's the best striker for Reading over the last 10 years or so, which I don't massively disagree with. And he shows leadership on the pitch. He would be the worst loss possible. Someone like Sam Smith.
Especially to someone like Watson, right? If he goes to a rival, that's sort of like a double blow, really, isn't it?
It would be tough. And with the position that Reading have been in, with the ownership and things like that, you can't blame players like McIntyre for leaving, Sellers, Nelson Abbey, players like that who have left because obviously the position the club's in. I know that Smith and players like Nibs and Wing, they love the club, but we've had players say they love the club as well, and then they've left like 2 days later. He would be a catastrophe if he left. Craig works like a dog, but if he left, it's not the end of the world. I think I might get pelted to this maybe, but if I don't see Charlie Savage play for Reading again, I'm not going to be completely upset by it. I feel this is a really important season. I felt this is a really important season for Savage. I felt this season.
You're going to be getting pelters from me for that. I'm literally a massive Charlie Savage fan. I think he's been one of our best players and has improved so much. Fair play. Entitled to yours.
I think I spoke to you at the start of the season. I said this could be a huge year for Savage. He needs to kick on. I know he needs a lot of development. It may have just been the last few games that I've seen him in that I've just, when the times get tough, he's quite he's a little bit weak on the ball. He doesn't shoot the ball as much as I'd maybe like him to. But yeah, look, we can't afford to lose anyone. Is the realistic thing about this. If we lose a single player, where it's looking pretty rough because we're just so short of options. I don't want to lose anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, no, neither. Right, obviously, we've got some really tough fixtures coming up, as you alluded to earlier on the podcast. I think it's Bolton, Huddersfield, Rotherham, Shrewsbury, and Birmingham are the next 5. So it's not easy. If the way that we've been playing these last 3 games, now we're coming up against some of the best teams in the league. How many points do you see us getting from these next few? I mean, for me, I think we'd be lucky to get 6. The way that we're playing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. 5 or 6, to be honest. I really do think we can. I really do think we can pick up a point against Bolton. I think we'll pick up a point against Birmingham, if I'm honest. Just for me being optimistic, it's a big game. The boys will be up for it. A win against Rotherham, losses to Huddersfield, Shrewsbury. Yeah, it's a difficult fixture. Slightly more optimistically, if we look ahead for like game week 36 or 34, we play the 16th in the league, 17th, 22nd, 15th, 24th, and 18th, the next 5 or 6 games after that. So there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel after these difficult fixtures. We do then play some of the lower league teams, but those will be, if we do, as you say, get 4 or 5, if we're lucky, out of these next 4 fixtures, every single one of those games will be 6 points because we'll be there in the league as well. We'll be down to 15th, 16th in the league when we play those guys. So it doesn't look good over the next few fixtures, especially how we've played the last few games. If that carries on, it's not looking good, bruv.
Nah, you're right. You've done your research there as well. You've got the whole rest of the fixture list on lock. Obviously, Huddersfield, Bolton, Rotherham. I'm not actually sure where Shrewsbury are, but they're not that far behind us, I imagine. They're all big games. They're all games that we're sort of like in and around the same sort of position as we are. If we can get, I know I said 6 points. Obviously, that's actually quite good. If we're going off the 2-point average per game to get somewhere in the playoffs. If we can keep those results as like draws and pick up a win against Shrewsbury, that's actually a really decent return, I'd say. And we saw how we performed against Charlton. Again, another team that sort of falls into that category of clubs that are sort of around that same sort of position. I thought we looked pretty solid defensively against Charlton. So if we can switch up the formation slightly and play like we did against Charlton, I would actually be pretty confident of picking up a point against some of those teams. It just puts so much pressure on getting a result against Shrewsbury, though. So yeah, I think if we can get a win against any of these teams, and then a few draws against the teams that are sort of in and around where we are at the moment, that'd be solid. That'd be a really good return from these next 5, because it's looking hard, and it gets slightly easier afterwards, like you said. But yeah, it's a huge part of the season now for everyone, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, our home form over the last 2 seasons has been incredible. I know the last couple of home games we've lost, but overall our home form has been really good. The crowds have my last couple of visits to the FCL, the crowds do look a little bit lighter, and we do need as many people as we can in the stadium. But there are 3 of our next 4 games are at home, which I feel pretty good about. It's just Huddersfield away, which will be could be a rough kicking. But Bolton, Rotherham, Birmingham, they're all at home, and we desperately need the fans to get behind the team, because that's where they play. They do tend to play their best football. So there is a little bit of light there because those games are at home. But it's just, honestly, mate, it's just the application in the games to me. Yeah, yes, like, of course, I'd rather us win a game and look awful than lose a game and be incredible, obviously. But the last 3 games have been so bad quality-wise, unless we just need to see a bit more fight on the pitch, and we'll start to feel a bit better about things, because this team has got quality. The starting 11, when they're all fit, are quality players capable of promotion. We just need to show a bit more on the pitch. And I think that will come. I think the best sides like Birmingham and Huddersfield will bring it out of us as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do feel like, I mean, the first game of the season, Dan and I went to it, and I thought we played great against Birmingham. So, you know, even though we're not in the best of form at the moment, I can't wait to play them. I cannot wait to play them. And just getting a win against the sides. To be fair, getting a win against any of these sides will just do all the good for confidence and that at the moment, which I think is exactly what our team needs. So yeah, big part of the season coming up. Hopefully can get 6 points. I think that'll be a decent return. I think we'll leave it at that, really. I've not really got anything else to cover. I think we sort of covered all bases over what's been going on over the last few days. Game on the weekend. Hopefully we get a statement from the club about what's going on behind closed doors, which I think is due. It's due any time now. As they said, once a month, and it's almost the end of the month, so it should be due any time now. But hopefully we can expect some positive news. But I'm not holding out for it. Thank you very much, mate, for joining us tonight in Dan's absence. Much appreciated. Maybe we'll just make this a free person thing going forwards, man. Who knows? I think you've done very well for your first Rules Review podcast, man. Have you enjoyed it? Yeah.
Debut done. Yeah, man, I have enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been a rough month, hasn't it, for us Royals? But you know, our next game is in February on Saturday, so let's just wipe the slate clean, start again in February. Like I said, we had a good Christmas. January can do one, and we'll go again Feb, and hopefully pick up 3 points against Bolton. But yeah, I've loved having me on the pod, so I hope we'll come back soon.
Sweet, nice one. All right, mate. Well, I will catch you later. Thanks everyone for watching, and yeah, keep your eye out for the next one. Come on, you are.